What you're about to learn could change the way you view sleep forever.
Men who sleep 5 to 6 hours a night will have a level of testosterone which is that of someone 10 years their senior. So a lack of sleep will age you by a decade in terms of that critical aspect of wellness, virility, muscle strength,
10
sexual
years,
performance.
that's incredible.
Getting a good night's sleep is easier said than done. According to the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, 50 to 70 million Americans struggle with chronic sleep disorders.
What should someone do if they have a hard time sleeping? Like, say if you're a person who's insomnia, you have a hard time getting to bed, you have a hard time staying asleep. Are there strategies?
In a study, it was observed that with just one night of sleep deprivation, there was a 70% drop in natural killer cell activity. These are the same cells that hunt down threats like cancer cells. The link between a lack of sleep and cancer was so profound that the World Health Organization classifies nighttime shift work as a probable carcinogen due to the disruption of sleep-wake rhythms. Numerous research studies now point to the simple truth: the shorter your sleep, the shorter your life. Short sleep predicts all-cause mortality. Interestingly, once you surpass about 9 or 10 hours of sleep, your mortality risk doesn't just keep going down, it'll hook back up again, as if almost too much sleep is bad. But the rabbit hole goes deeper. Consider the global daylight savings time ritual, affecting 1.6 billion people across 70 countries. When we lose an hour of sleep, heart attacks spike by 24%. Come autumn, they drop by 21% when we gain that hour back. And that's not all. Car crashes and accidents follow this pattern. Listen closely. The capitalistic society we live in wants you to either be producing or consuming. When you're sleeping, you're doing neither. In fact, and this might surprise you, the CEO of Netflix announced they're declaring war against sleep. It's clear that there are many ways of the modern world, intentionally or not, has tried to squeeze our sleep time. But hold on. The world's #1 sleeping expert and brilliant scientist of neuroscience at the University of California, Dr. Matthew Walker, has some tried and tested sleep hacks for you. Stick with me. By the end, you'll have the secrets to drifting off like a baby. Before that, let's look at the 2 major mistakes you might be making, which could be the primary reasons you can't fall asleep. Firstly, while many of us love coffee, the very coffee you drink to boost productivity might be ruining your sleep. The problem with coffee is that it contains caffeine, which has a half-life of about 5 to 6 hours, so if you drink coffee at noon, by midnight, approximately 25% of that caffeine could still be active in your system, which is like having a mini caffeine shot right before bedtime and then hoping for a serene night. Next time, try your best to avoid coffee afternoon. The second major mistake you might be making is napping. Naps are undoubtedly magical. They boost heart health, amplify learning abilities, and can positively shift your emotional gears. But there are 2 rules to this game which you can't miss. First, keep it short, no more than 20 minutes. Beyond that, you might wake up to the unpleasant arms of sleep inertia, which feels like a hangover without the fun night before. Second, be wary of the clock. After 2 or 3 p.m., it's best to keep those eyelids up. And for those wrestling with insomnia or difficulty falling asleep, daytime napping, bad idea. Your brain accumulates a sleepiness chemical called adenosine throughout the day. Sleep clears it out. Napping is like flushing away that built-up sleepiness, reducing your odds of a peaceful night's sleep. But what if you have got these right and are still struggling to get that perfect night's sleep? Next up, we're diving into Dr. Matthew Walker's top 5 sleep hacks that should do the job for you. Finally, we'll share 3 unconventional tips that you can use the next time you're struggling to sleep. And trust me, they're game changers. So, it starts with understanding 5 core principles. First and foremost, according to renowned sleep experts, regularity is the foundation. It's quite simple. Go to bed and wake up at nearly the same time every day, even on weekends. This might seem elementary, but your brain absolutely craves this consistency. Second, it's not just about closing your eyes. Darkness is essential to induce sleep. Dim down half of the lights or switch off half of the lights in your home in the last hour before bed. You'll be surprised at how sleepy that darkness will make you feel. And it's also an incredible behavioral trigger to signal to your brain that it's time for sleep. On to the third principle, temperature. Aim for a bedroom temperature of around 18 to 18.5 degrees Celsius. Your body needs to drop its core temperature by about 1 to 1.5 degrees Celsius to both initiate the sleep and then to stay asleep. And it's the reason you will always find it easier to fall asleep in a room that's too cold rather than too hot. The fourth tip might sound counterintuitive. If you can't drift into sleep, don't just lie there counting sheep. Instead, get up and walk it out, read a book, or perhaps meditate. Don't lie in bed awake for too long. If meditation and mental walks aren't working, the final suggestion is to remove all clock faces from your bedroom. Knowing the time of night has no utility for you. If you don't want to get out of bed or listen to a podcast, simply accept that tonight might not be your night for sleep. Lie in bed and rest, enjoying the peace without worrying about sleep. Often, once you stop trying, sleep happens, and the next thing you remember is the alarm clock going off in the morning. Lastly, about that evening drink, alcohol, while sedating, fragments and disrupts sleep quality and blocks your REM sleep. So, while an occasional glass is fine, be aware of its silent effects on your rest. Finally, it's the time for 3 unconventional tips that could be a game changer for you. First off, ditch the age-old adage of counting sheep. The myth was debunked by a study done by Professor Alison Harvey at UC Berkeley. They found that counting sheep actually made it harder to fall asleep. What actually works? Taking yourself on some mental walk. So think about a nice walk that you just take in nature, or a walk on the beach, or even a walk around an urban environment. Just visualizing that seemed to be beneficial. Or better yet, listen to a sleep story in the Calm app. What these sleep stories and meditation are doing is taking your mind off itself, allowing sleep to come back naturally. Secondly, after those restless nights of bad sleep when you feel a desperate need for a quick fix, surprisingly, the best action is to do nothing at all. Resist the temptation to wake up later, avoid that extra coffee, and don't sneak in afternoon naps. Finally, don't go to bed earlier than usual. On the surface, an early bedtime might seem like a viable solution, but trust me, it's a rabbit hole. The idea is not to disrupt your natural rhythm, even if your instinct tells you otherwise. And finally, keep in mind that sleep isn't just an on-off switch. Sleep is a physiological process, much like landing a plane. That's why winding down routine is important. Instead of racing into sleep, it's about easing into it, whether it's light stretching, meditation, or perhaps losing yourself in a book. Figure out what works for you. Just remember, too much light, that's a no-go. Are you ready for a bonus? Here's the secret sauce to shake off that groggy feeling after waking up. According to Dr. Andrew Huberman, the first magic ingredient is morning sunlight. It helps regulate your body's internal clock. But it's about temperature as well. To boost that core body temperature, consider a plunge into cold water. Whether it's a short 1 to 3 minute shower, an ice bath, or a special cold tub, it does wonders. If you've ever jumped into cold water or had a cold shower, you know it really wakes you up because you release adrenaline, epinephrine from your brain and body. Although it might sound counterintuitive, despite the cold, your core body temperature will actually rise, making you more alert and releasing motivation-boosting dopamine. Lastly, exercise can also increase your body temperature and boost your alertness. Studies suggest the most effective times to exercise are right after waking, 3 hours later, or even 11 hours later. It could be a walk, allowing you to get your sunlight exposure first thing in the morning. It could be a light jog or skipping rope. Remember, the objective goes beyond merely getting the heart rate up. It's about synchronizing with our body's internal rhythms. Dr. Huberman personally skips rope for about 10 to 20 minutes in the sunlight, followed by a cold shower. Finally, in Dr. Matthew Walker's words, unfortunately, sleep is not an optional lifestyle luxury. Sleep is a non-negotiable biological necessity. It is your life support system and Mother Nature's best effort yet at immortality.